Welcome to the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-hosts, Dr. Steve Jeffs and Erwin de Grave. Each episode, we bring you expert guests and transformative coaching insights. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-host, Dr. Steve Jeffs and myself, Erwin de Grave. And today we have the pleasure to talk to Brooke Summer Adams. Hello, Brooke. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm very well. Thank you for asking. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, welcome. And Steve, of course, always welcome as well. So, Brooke, we could try to introduce yourself, but I'm sure you know yourself much better than we do. So who's Brooke? How did she get in coaching and what does she do in coaching?
Okay, right. Big question. I'll try and give you the concise version of the story because it is a story indeed. But yes, my name is Brooke Summer Adams. People listening, if you've ever heard that name before, you might know me better as the coach's coach. But today I have become very well known for helping brand new coaches to set up their business, replace a 9-to-5 income and go full time on their freedom. The fact that I do this today is wild, to be honest. It was not the plan. I couldn't have predicted this. This is very much like a life nudging me into this place. But my journey into coaching started back in 2018, so it's been a minute now. And to set the scene, I was at uni. I was in my alternative goth phase still, very much. I was a angry young woman. I struggled quite a lot personally. My main issue was really with body image, eating disorders. That was my story. And I decided around that time to join a martial arts gym. I took up kickboxing. And the funny thing is, this martial arts gym is owned by my uncle. I could have joined at any point in my life. He has always had that gym ever since I've been born. But the day that I joined that gym, I was paired with the other new starter, another new girl joining kickboxing, and she was a life coach. And we met each other on that day. And I'll be completely honest, I hated her. I hated everything about her. She was happy, she was bright, she was cheerful, she moved like a fucking fairy. And it was one of those things, I'm sure people listening get it, when your energy is down here and someone else's energy is up here and you're just like, get out of my face. But a few months of being forced to work with this very happy woman, I hired her. And she became my life coach, and that was my first introduction to life coaching. Had the transformation of my life. I'm no longer an angry little emo goth, though I do still enjoy a bit of metal from here to here. And took up my training, became a life coach. I niched down into body image, eating disorders, and that was what I became well known for. 18 months later, I was living in Bali, making 6 figures, and I had a lot of people asking me how I did it, which nudged my transition into business coaching. And that's the short version of that story. It's been a journey now, is that 8 years?
Wow, exciting. So, you came in contact with a life coach in kickboxing
Mm-hmm.
and hated the guts out of her because that energy was there. So, what was it that after 3 months that you said, I need to work with her? What was the thing that rattled you during those few months?
That's a very good question. And I would love to say I had this profound moment of realizing that, I was comparing myself and I was the problem and I was this and I was that. The reality was I found her on social media and I stalked her. I found her on social media when I got home, and I stalked her, and that meant that a lot of her content was coming up onto my feed. So it wasn't just our couple hours a week being together. I was kind of ended up being immersed in her world, and I learned more about her and her story and what she'd been through. And I realized that she wasn't happy because it was easy for her and she was special and all the things that you tell yourself. I realized she herself had been through a journey and had worked on herself and had chosen to be happy. And that was something that really resonated with me. And I just allowed myself to become a little bit more open, judge her a bit less, stop making it mean things about me. And I suppose that was really where my transformation started unfolding, was on Instagram, believe it or not.
And then you had the chance to
go ahead.
and then you had the chance to kick her as well in the kickboxing. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Which, I still do to this day. So if we could do a rematch, that'd be great.
I love it. You spoke about, niching into body image and eating disorders initially, based on your experience and your story. And then there was a pivot. What had to shift in your identity as a coach, as a businesswoman, to be able to make that transition?
That's a really, really good question. I think it was being able to shift into someone who knew what she was talking about. I think my journey unfolded so naturally and so intuitively, and it wasn't planned and it wasn't strategized, if that made sense. There was a part of me that was like, I don't know, I've created this by luck, or I've created this just, being in the right place or the right time, and really doubting that what I had done to create the life I had was something that was like replicable or teachable or something that could be applied to other people. So it was a big shift in self-trust, I think, in my expertise and actually owning, no, I did this by learning stuff and doing things and putting myself out there and understanding, what gets attention, what creates connection, and what helps build an audience and build a brand and a reputation for yourself, and actually own that I'm really, really good at that. Before I felt comfortable to do it with other people. I think you guys all know this yourself. I know you're big on this, but any coaches, I think, who have longevity and sustainability in this game is because they're here for the right reasons, and they're high on their integrity. And I think business coaching was something I always saw as like really fun and really, I want to say the word like quite sexy, quite exciting. It's a juicy topic, and I didn't just want to be one of those coaches that jumps into it, because they couldn't do it themselves. They're going to teach other people. I wanted that full belief that I'm really good at this, and I can help other people do it too, which is the case. So yeah, I had to own it basically.
Mhm.
I love it. And for, one of the phrases Erwin and I use for coaches is, we get into coaching because we love coaching and then become accidental entrepreneurs. And as we do that and go, oh crap, I got to build a business. What are you seeing that people don't know as they start coaching, and what are the things they need to pay attention to?
Oh, fantastic question. What do I think people don't realize when they come into coaching, and what do I think they need to pay attention to?
Yeah.
I think the main thing here, if I had to boil it down to a concise answer for you, is that being a coach is not the same as being a business owner. Maybe more specific, being a great coach is not the same as being a great business owner. You can be a fantastic coach in your delivery, genuinely change lives like on the daily, profound shifts for people in your 60-minute sessions, and still have no inquiries on the business front. They are two completely different skill sets, and I think they are such a yin and yang of each other as well. In that coaching, right? As coaches, what are we here to do is to give people what they need, right? Help them uncover their own answers. What are you here to do as a marketer? Give people what they want and tell them what the answer is. I don't think they could really be much yin and yang from each other. And I think a lot of coaches come into this space because, like you said, they love coaching, they love helping people. They're generally quite naturally empathetic, good listeners, able to really be with people and make people feel seen, make people feel heard. Doesn't necessarily translate into the ability to market yourself and sell yourself. It's a whole new learning. And I think that's the thing I wish people understood more, is to give yourself time to have that learning curve. Is that just because, you might be finding the business stuff newer or out of your depths or whatever it is, doesn't mean that you're not going to be phenomenally successful at this. Because the most important thing is that you can deliver results. And now it's just learning how to show people that. But yeah, I think a lot of people massively underestimate the other skill sets that are required to work for yourself,
How ma-
basically, as a coach.
how many coaches would come, or how many people would become coaches if they know that that business part is so important? Because I would be like a lot of people would say, "Phew, if I need to look all at that business, should I start as a coach?"
Ooh. Do you know, I think that really depends on the reason why they started. I think it really does. I think something quite toxic has taken place in our industry over late, where being a coach has got sold as an easy dream, where you know, can talk to a couple people a day and do really meaningful work for a living, post to social media, and that's it. And that's your life, and it's really, really easy. And for anyone who thinks that's the case, I'm sorry to tell you, this is sadly not true, especially not at the beginning. So if people are joining this because they think it's going to be an easy lifestyle, right, an easy based freedom lifestyle right off the bat, like straight off the gate, I don't think that they'll have that longevity in it, because they'll hit that learning curve and go, this isn't worth it. But those who join because they know, you know, those who start because they know that this is what they're meant to do. Like they have a message, they have a mission for the world that they refuse to keep quiet. You'll roll with the punches, you know what I mean? You'll just move with it, because you have no alternative. You have to get this message out there. So I really do think it depends on why people start, because it's not, I say this a lot to my clients, it is not an easy lifestyle to create. It's a worthwhile lifestyle to create. That's the difference.
I love that contrast. I think, like any great coach, of course, you've turned the answer around to, well, let's start with why. Let's get clear on purpose and dreams and goals and where are we heading, and then we can look at the details of what needs to happen to get there.
Mm,
And I think it's a really great intuitive response, because your question was a great one, Erwin. Like
mm,
it really made me ponder. And your response there, Brooke, is, well, actually, if we frame the question like that, probably no one.
mm,
No
mm,
one would get into business just to build a business. Even business people don't get into business to build business unless they're working at a level and they're serial entrepreneurs, and it's the building of the business that inspires them. But of course, they to be successful, not only do they have to have that passion for business, but they've got to have products and services that people are gonna buy. So I think if it was a yes, it's a rarity. But
mm,
actually, when we reframe the question as you did, to go, hang on, what's the impact I want to create, and what's driving me? What's important about this? And then what do I need to do to be able to set that free sustainably? And the inherent question that you're asking, well, and what does that business look like for me to be able to create the lifestyle that I want to be able to create while adding the value that's important for me to add? And I love this conversation, because in that one answer, you're pointing to probably half a dozen conversations that we have
mm.
with different coaches about all of these different layers, because it's not just coaching. And there's all of this other stuff to for people to start to think about, and this is true in any industry, any entrepreneurial startup. I love that. Um, where do people get stuck with that in your experience as they're stepping in?
How do people get stuck with that? I think the main area where I see people get stuck is they apply. I don't often speak in absolutes like this, but I will here. They apply the wrong meaning to that learning curve. And what I mean is they come in, we start with the coaching, right? Everyone starts with the coaching. You go get your coaching certification, your coaching accreditation. It's a very fun journey. It's very exciting. You learn a lot about yourself along the way. You get all these cool little techniques and tricks, and you're using them with your friends and you're using them with your family. And it's amazing. And you're learning and you're expanding and you realize you're really good at it and it's amazing. And then it's time to start the business and you realize you've got a whole new skill set to learn and a whole new repertoire to learn. And anyone listening who has ever done the transition from an employee to an entrepreneur, you'll know the truth in what I'm saying. It is a whole different world with a whole different set of rules that most people have never been taught to comprehend, to understand, to know how to do. It's a whole new world with a whole new learning curve. And therefore, they don't succeed right away. They don't find it easy right away. It doesn't work right away. They feel stupid to begin with, cringy to begin with. And that transition, they make it mean something that it doesn't mean. They make it mean that they can't do it or they're inadequate or, this isn't the right path for them. When the reality is this is the entry fee. This is exactly what it's supposed to look like and feel like when you start. And I think what we often call this, that imposter syndrome moment, something that I've clocked from my experience, and it'd be interesting to hear your guys' perspective on this, is that normally the people with imposter syndrome are very clever, capable people who have a history of taking something up and succeeding in it pretty quickly, right away. So they come into business, this whole new skill set, this whole new learning that doesn't have any relation to what we've learned in school, what we've been doing in jobs, is completely new, and they don't succeed right away. And they make it mean this whole big thing that they're not used to. And I think it is often a case of very highly capable people with a lot of potential not realizing that it's normal to suck at something when you start. And then they just don't continue. Did I answer your question, or did I end up somewhere else?
No, you did not. And when you were spoken, Brooke, I had a metaphor that came up when you said from the move from an employee to being an entrepreneur. As an employee, you're a small piece in the machine. And when you become an entrepreneur, you become the whole machine. And you need to manage the whole bloody machine, which could be, well, I'm used to know that little part because that's what I've learned and that's what I've done. And now I have to control and manage the whole machine. And it's like, yes, and when you talk about the imposter syndrome, and you posed a little question for us, the imposter syndrome is what happens to me is when I sometimes say, yeah, but listen, for me it is normal, but for the other people it is not normal what I know. So what happened is you know it and you think that's the normal thing in life. Everybody knows this. And again, it's not.
Yeah.
And it's making that realization that you say, actually, what I know, some people know, but other people, many people do not know.
Yeah.
And then you have to realize I need to transform what is normal for me in something extraordinary for other people. And that's what they want. So that's then the way that I can say, okay. And if you feel that imposter syndrome is, how can I, one, learn and to understand, you need to be conscious about the knowledge that you have, the experience that you have is not everybody have. So that's one. Second is believing in yourself and having the confidence. I was talking to a client yesterday, and the tip I'm always giving, and we're talking specifically about imposter syndrome and confidence. I say, what you need to do is to stand in front of the mirror and look at yourself. And even, and I put this out, and I've told this, but even if you can do this naked. This is that naked part, because there you see yourself who you are, without clothes, without something that gives. Look first this, and then you put the clothes on that. You say, now I put my coaching clothes on, which is then something on top. Look in the mirror again, and that's it. That it is. But that's what I see when we talk about imposter syndrome, and everybody has it. Depends on the level that goes and what specifically. And entrepreneurs is different than employees, because in employees you have the whole surrounding that allows you that imposter syndrome doesn't come up too much because you're part of the machine. But when you become an entrepreneur and you're the whole machine, they're just floating up.
Yeah, I think another huge thing that comes into this for anyone that's, your whole history is employee based. It's very linear. It's like, I go to work, I do this many hours, this much pay is guaranteed. Right. Same with school. Like, I go to school, I do this many hours, the day finishes at this time, I get these grades. You have this constant, like, do feedback, do feedback, do feedback. Entrepreneurship doesn't have that. It's like you work and you work and you have to believe, you have to trust, you have to have that faith in yourself that it is eventually going to come around. You don't get those evidence signals in the same way, not in the early stages anyway, that we do, that we're used to with growing up in school, growing up in jobs and things like that. You have other people validating this is working. And in entrepreneurship, you have to validate for yourself, right, that this is working and this is going somewhere before the evidence turns up and the clients turn up and the sales turn up and whatever it is you're measuring it by. And it's a huge learning curve. The thing I always say, if anyone ever wants to, like, go all in on self-development, start a business. You'll have every single experience of that.
Yeah.
That's so true. One One thing you've got me thinking about, Erwin, you're talking about imposter syndrome and knowledge and people having that unique perspective. It's one of the things that I see in a world that's filled with social media. There's so much information everywhere. As Elon Musk and others say, look, don't got to bother going to university. You can learn everything off the internet. And a lot of us in business um, start to go, well, look, hang on. I don't know anything different. Everything that I've learned from others. This guy's talking about the same message as this one. It's similar to me. How do I want to compete with that? I don't. What role does not so much what people are saying, but how they bring that information to life? What role does that play in communicating in social media and to potential clients?
Brilliant question. I think it plays probably the biggest role when we bring it into a conversation of personal branding and gaining attention from an audience, which is obviously something that you want to do if you want to make sales online and move people into your programs and make an impact online. You need attention, which means you need to stand out. And you're spot on. It's the same in that what I teach my clients in terms of like business strategy. I don't have some like profound methodology that came to me from the heavens. It's something that someone told me and I did and it worked. So I'm teaching it to other people, right? And I've found, my own words for it and I found my own spin for it. The bit that makes it unique is your perspective on it, your beliefs on it, right? Your opinions about it, why you do it that way, or how you think it fits into a bigger picture. So just an easy one as an example, anyone who follows me publicly, they'll know I take a very, very loud, firm stance on the spectrum of manifestation to hustle, right? I think there's a spectrum and people sit on different sides of the fence. You're either like hustle bro, at it mentality, force it, make it happen, don't sleep, do the thing, or you're in a kimono on the beach in Bali, just call it in. And I personally think it's both. I think you need a level of energetic alignment. I have a huge woo element to my programs. I believe in that firmly, but I also think you need to do something, right? So when I'm talking about strategies such as attraction-based marketing, right? Putting out messages that call in your dream clients. I'm not just giving you the how to do a hook, how to capture the right attention in the caption, or the visual hook or whatever. I'll deliver that, but I'll also deliver it with my belief packed into it, that is, do it with intention and it will meet the people it needs to meet, but do it with strategy so that it actually converts. So I think it's everything, because no one remembers me because I taught them how to do a great hook. They remember me because my perspective on it and how I teach it fits so nicely into their worldview that it feels aligned, and it feels like the kind of person that they want to listen to more and they want to learn from more. So that edge, right? That USP, the part about it that is unique to you, it's everything, absolutely everything. It's never been more important either to be original, and to be unique, be slightly disruptive of what you're saying, brave with what you're saying as well. Like, don't just share what, share why, right? Share your opinion on it.
Interesting. And how do people get started with that? Because when I speak to coaches, um, you're coming from an employee space. They talk to the people in front of them, and this whole let me try to talk to strangers that I don't know on a platform where I can't see them and there's no immediate feedback and what's going on? Am I just shouting into the darkness? Or and there's all of these stories that start to happen. Now, I'm making some assumptions that social media is a big part of your positioning, given how you sort of came to this and what you learned about your coach to get you transition from I hate you and I really love kicking the crap out of you to hey, let's work together. So what are your insights or tips around helping people start to build a brand beyond job title for a particular company?
Oh, what a fantastic question. I think the first thing I'll say is you're going to have to embrace what I've already referred to as the entry fee. You are going to feel cringy. It's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel like you're talking to no one. It's going to feel like you're posting into the void. And honestly, to be completely blunt, all of those things are probably true. And that's why people don't start. It's exactly that. There is actually nothing hard about marketing yourself on social media. It's typing and pushing buttons. It's not actually hard. It's doing it that's hard. It's getting over that resistance you have in your head about how other people are going to see you, right? And that's always what it comes back to, is how is this going to be perceived, and how is that going to make me feel. In terms of like getting started, there's something that I do with my clients. It's very, very simple, but it lies in this. It's three questions, right? And I would have answers to these questions, and I would keep this as your main focus, like your compass. Number one being, what do you stand for? Right. And this goes beyond like, what's your niche, right? Anyone born in that way, I help people do it. What do you stand for? As in, what will you stand on this hill and die for if you had to? Right. So as an example, mine is freedom. Every single cell of my being cares deeply about freedom and free living. I have a lot of different opinions I won't get into today about the world that we live in and society, and where we've ended up. But I believe people are here to be free. And that has always been with me. Early days, my little conspiracy theorist preaching mode, right? I have had different avenues about how I've brought this message to the world, but I stand for it deeply, is that human beings are supposed to be free, and we're supposed to do meaningful things with our time. So that's the first thing. What do you stand for? And don't worry if it's like specific to your coaching or not. It doesn't actually matter. Number two, what's your inherent talent? Like something usually you're almost born with or you've taken up easily. It's rarely profound. For me, it's planning, time management. I've always been fantastic at it. Ever since I was little, before I could write, I would draw my day out in pictures. I think you'd be hard pushed to find someone better at project management than me. That's like my God's given talent. I'm really good at it. And then it's finding where do they intersect in a way that brings value to the world. And that one might take a minute. But when I combine my passion for freedom and my skill set for planning, helping people create freedom-based businesses actually makes quite a lot of sense. Right now, what I have is what you can call my purpose, right? Or my meaning, or my driving force. That is what matters. When I'm making my decisions, it's not based on what are people going to think, what's going to feel more comfortable, what's going to make the most sense, what's going to be the quickest, what's going to be easiest. What helps me combine what I stand for and my talents in a way that brings value to the world, because that is what I'm here to do. So that is what's mediating my decisions. And then what happens is you just get over it. You have so much reps, so much exposure. I promise you, you just stop caring. And I know that sounds crazy. Showing up online was my biggest thing. I remember this is someone who had severe body image issues. Posting online was my biggest challenge. 3 months in, I was like, what the fuck was I on about? Right? That fear, it just disappears. But yeah, it's knowing what you're actually prioritizing, because every single time you're saying yes to playing small, you're saying yes to hiding, you're saying yes to being comfortable, you're saying no to something else. And that is usually your message, your mission, your dream, and the thing you're here to do. So wake that up a little bit and remember what's actually important, because it's not what people on the internet think, ever.
I want to unpack just a little of what you said, because there was a lot of brilliancy in that. But just for those listening, that you just get over it. I saw a couple of things before and a couple of things after, because it's never that simple, well, until it is. And what I heard you speak to was, these three key questions. What do I stand for? What's my inherent talent? What's the intersection of that? And this is a place of coming from. This is where it's more about just, shouting into the wind. There's purpose behind this. And this feels like a solid foundation from which to start messaging, whatever the messaging looks like. But like from this place, how do I help people connect to that through the application of my inherent talent? And then there's this whole action component that often goes unstated, but I saw it sort of beneath there. It's like, well, yeah, 3 months you said just a moment ago. Well, that's 3 months of action. That's not like one post here and then 3 months later another post, I'm guessing. There's action, there's routine, there's the commitment to the pathway. And just like climbing a hill, you've got to take a whole lot of steps. And the more steps you take, at some point, you do just get over it as long as you're progressing towards that peak. And so I think that solid foundation, that purposeful orientation from a place of service, which is why we get into coaching in the first place, supported by action, supplemented by attention, learning, awareness, and trying new different things, seeing what works, finding our groove as we start to move. And that becomes the pathway to getting over it. And it's not the getting over it that leads to the action, it's the action that leads to the getting over it. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, beautiful. Beautifully and eloquently put. Spot on.
It's like a plant. If you see it, if you put the seed under the ground, it needs to push, push, push. If it would stop, it's not going to come out. So it's in nature embedded that nature knows I need to push, 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 and one day I'm going to go through that last thing of earth and I'm going to start to blossom. What happens is that many people, they try, and it's a little bit harder and harder, and they give up.
Yeah.
And what happens, the seed dies. They try it another seed, and they try it again, and they find it again, they go and they go. And as you said, it is keep pushing, keep believing in yourself, but also, and I think this is important, we haven't touched on this, but also make the necessary changes and adaptations. If you see that this way is a little more difficult, if I move the seed a little bit this way, I will be able to make the adjustment that is necessary. Because being stubborn and say, no, I'm going to go. But if you have the full wind against you, be bright, be smart enough to say, okay, where do I need to tweak? Because I imagine those 3 months, what you started posting, you made tweaks, tweaks to things to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the main thing it comes down to, that we talk about self-belief, we talk about self-trust, and this is definitely something that takes a while to develop. But I think it's a level of self-certainty, of self-knowing, in that for me, and I hear people talk about, like, how do you keep going when, the belief is low? And to be completely honest, I can't resonate. Like for me, the thought of me being where I wanted to be and making the impact that I wanted to make and having the life that I wanted to have was so non-negotiable to me. It was not an if. It's happening. It's a level of certainty. The if, the wonder is how I'm going to get there, right? That's what I got to figure out. But the getting there is not up for debate. I am going to get there. Well, that's what I was saying to myself. So when you have that level of certainty, like you said, the showing up and the pushing through, the resistance actually doesn't become that difficult, because what it is now is sensical. It's logical. The example I give to my clients is, like, if you were building a house and you knew for an absolute fact that once that house was built, you were going to get like $1 million in profit, you're laying those bricks as fast as you can, as many as you can a day. Do you know what I mean? You're going for it, go for it. That's the energy I bring into my business. I'm not finding it hard to show up or be consistent or tweak or learn or change or do any of that, because I know the faster I move and the better I move and the more I do, the sooner I get there. So there isn't this daily battle of, like, have faith and believe and it will come. I know it's coming. So now I'm just going to do the things I can do to get there as fast as I want to. And that is not a mindset I started with, right? That is something that I developed over time. But I think that's the game changer, because when you know that where you're heading is guaranteed to you, right? The part that you now need to figure out is what's the pathway? But you will figure that out so quickly, so rapidly, with so much enthusiasm and so much excitement, because you know that every time you put that rep in, you're getting closer, right? It's moving towards something. I truly see that as the game changer. A lot of people in my world call this delusion. I think delusion is a prerequisite to success. Personally, I think everyone who's successful has a little bit of that delusion in them. And I think it's the game changer that, like you said, is a beautiful metaphor to get the little seedling to surface.
Love that. What is it? It's the ones that are crazy enough to believe they can change the world that can.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you answered the question that you said you couldn't answer. You know, how do you go forwards when belief is low? Well, reconnect to belief, and from that place, just keep building those bricks. I think that's a great reminder. I think it's also a great place as entrepreneurs where we often push because we think that's all we can do. You know, that work ethic where I've got to work harder, and if it's not working, I've got to work harder. Well, actually, entrepreneurially, we've got to work harder, but we also need to work smarter. And I
Mm.
think that's where nature, you know, to your point, Erwin, is a really great example because that little seedling is going to keep working hard, but it's not going to push through concrete. It's going to be moving across until it finds little cracks, and it's going to find those little cracks, and it's going to be moving through them. And that's why you see trees and flowers growing in the middle of concrete, not because they busted through it, but because they found their way through the uncertainty, the challenge, the darkness, and all of these other metaphors that there are for building a business.
Mm.
One question that comes up, certainly as we're talking about nature and whether it's seedlings or butterflies, which is a great metaphor
Mm.
for coaching. But one of the things that happens is if a caterpillar is in this little cocoon and it starts to come out as a butterfly, when we as humans start to help it and pull its little cocoon away, its wings don't develop as well. Same with chicks and eggs. And as coaches and as leaders, there's this sort of tension between how and where do I help someone, particularly if I can see it because I've been on a path or that, versus how do I help them learn?
Mm.
And working with, you know, coaches as you do to help them build their business, what helps you navigate that space of where do I help and where do I help them learn?
This is a brilliant question. I think this is an interesting one for me because in my delivery, I do blur the lines a little between coaching and mentoring. I can switch in between those hats interchangeably, and they're not the same thing, right? Without getting pedantic about it, a mentor is going to consult, is going to give answers, is going to provide solutions. The coach in its traditional discipline shouldn't be doing that. They should be helping the client uncover their own answers and uncover their own pathway. So I think it's, for me anyway, I can speak from myself, it's being able to spot the difference between where information is needed and empowerment is needed. So, for example, there is no amount of me in my coaching hat quizzing my client who has no idea what a funnel is that's going to get her to reach a moment where she goes, I need a sales funnel. It's not going to happen, right? Because that answer isn't in there. But equally, let's say she's applying the strategy, she's doing the things, and I don't know, maybe there's a block around content creation, there's a block around what she wants to say or how she wants to say it. This is not where the mentor needs to jump in and be like, "Have you tried this framework?" Do you know what I mean? This is where the coach needs to jump in and actually help this person uncover where is this resistance coming from, right? For me, I often find is where are we keeping ourselves safe? It's usually a voice of protection, right? Where are these behaviors coming from? What are the beliefs underpinning it? And actually helping that person uncover their answer. So I think the thing that I navigate myself when I'm choosing which hat to put on is like the thing that this person needs right now. Is it a fact that they simply don't have? Right? Is it a piece of information that they're simply lacking in order to apply? Or is this something deeper than that, where this is actually a level of self-leadership and self-empowerment? And sometimes it's easier to spot, sometimes it's not. But with experience, you get better at navigating that and picking it up.
And I think it also depends on the person you have in front of you.
Mm,
Because sometimes you need to, what I sometimes do is give like a, not physical, but a slap in the face by saying,
yeah.
this. I said, what? And then the thinking starts. So what you said, sometimes it's not about saying the answer, but it's saying something that generates, not by a question, but saying, hey, have you thought about this? Mind
Yeah.
blowing. What does that mean? Well, let's investigate.
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah.
you said. It's like, so
Yep.
let's open. There's a door there. You haven't seen the door. Allow me to open the door and then you
Hmm.
go. Because you see that they're like frustrated. They're not seeing it. You see this. If I sit with them, it's going to take them 6 months before they go into the light bulb. And we need that light
Hmm.
much quicker. Well, let's give that nudge that they need. And I fully
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah, it's a very, very clever thing to do. I think it needs to be done quite tastefully, but it's sometimes almost like that baiting them in with an answer that makes them realize it's not the answer. I've done this before with a client who came in, in a moment I'm sure everyone can resonate in entrepreneurship of basically, I think I might want to quit, right? I think I've hit my limit. I think I'm done here. And obviously listening to her uncover and where a lot of coaches would go, they jump into that, well, what would happen if you did this? And let's play with it. What would happen? And where's the gray? Where's the solutions here? And instead I came back with okay, quit. I think you should quit. Right. And it was in that moment I watched her realize she doesn't want to. Right. When I gave her that as a mentor, yeah, I think you should quit. The resistance that immediately confirmed to her, I don't want to. Right. Like no other discovery or explanation required there. It's like, okay, so we know that. So what are we going to do? Right. Moving forward. Yeah. It's throwing in that curveball. It's very fun with clients.
Yeah, throwing it in from a place of authenticity and
Yeah.
connectedness. As I'm listening, I can see a lot of leaders and coaches going, "Yeah, that'd be cool." I can see others going, "Wait, oh, that's a strategy that I can use. That's a tool." And if we use that as a tool, it's not going to land. It's going to lead in directions that are different. But from that place of within the relationship, curiosity, and giving yourself permission to go, "Huh, I'm going to follow this intuition," and then to dance with it. I think that was really a cool example. One thing that I'm hearing in all of this, or at least a connection that I'm making for coaches that are listening, often we default to the information and telling because it's easy, it's certain. There's a clarity that we bring, and there's that ego piece of, hey, I solved the problem.
Yeah.
And we know this. I mean, this works sometimes when it is information, and when it's not. People have information all the time. Having information, having access to information is not the problem. Applying it and making a difference through that is. And I think that's that difference between information and empowerment and action. And as coaches and as leaders, actually, well, look, let's try one. I love to encourage people, especially new, like try the coaching side. Try to encourage and explore and see what you can discover. And I love that because then at the end, well, I'm mixed on it because at the end I go, oh my gosh, that was so much better than what I was going to say. Then I'm like, oh crap, that was so much better than what I was going to say. But, but there's that place. And then, of course, there's the other thing where we do start to share information because we think it's useful, but nothing changes. We got to pay attention to that because that's evidence that it's not about information. There's something else that's going on. And that presence and agility becomes one of the values that we bring. It's not just what we know. It's not just how we articulate it. It's how we co-create and partner with our clients in that moment to help them know what they need to know, see what they need to see, own what they need to own, and of course, get off their butt and move forwards towards creating what it is that's important for them to create.
Yeah, I seen yesterday I was talking to a startup founder and we were talking and she said, yes, yeah, to people who when they buy a house, I can offer this and I just was sitting there and that's like what I said, have you ever thought to sell it to the people who just sold? They got a lot of money. Just that's in those moments where we're talking about. It's just like a small thing that's, oh, I didn't think about this. I'll have a look at this, and then you say, cool.
It's a great thing. I'm noticing the energy of our conversation, so we're going to come to you and find out how people can connect with you in a second, Brooke. But I think it's a great reminder of something that you said before. We all see something of value from our unique perspective. And it's not the information, it's not the knowledge, it's not even the experience, but it's our application of that in a perspective and a point of view. So as coaches, that's something that we've got to remember because that cannot be replicated. Even as Erwin just demonstrated, my perspective on this conversation, well, I'm seeing something that by definition of me being there is at least subtly different from how the client sees. And when we give ourselves permission to share that in service of, that purpose that you so powerfully spoke to before, the client becomes more aware because they can suddenly see more greater awareness. Now they can make different decisions. So I think it's a nice tie back to we all got a voice, we all got a perspective. how you see what you see is more important than what you're seeing. So it's an opportunity to share that, get it out there, and help those clients that are looking for you. They're seeking you, they're waiting for you. Help them be able to find you. And of course, speaking of finding, for those that are curious, inspired, or want to learn more, how can people find you?
A masterclass in segue, Steve. Okay, I think the best place to come and hang out with me if you're interested will be my Instagram. It's at Brooke Summer Adams. Brooke has an E on the end. A lot of people miss that off. I'm sure you'll be able to see it somewhere around this podcast, but the spelling is exactly the same. Come and hang out with me on Instagram. We have great conversations over there, lots of free stuff that's going to be super valuable if you are a coach, particularly if you're a newer coach in your journey and looking to make this your full-time thing. It's going to be a very helpful place for you to plug into indeed.
Well, Brooke, thank you very much for this inspiring, purposeful conversation that we had. And everybody else, thank you for listening in. And until the next episode, take care. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to The Coaching Edge. Until next time, keep coaching and keep growing.